Hi, welcome back, and thanks for checking in. Here's your next lesson on calculating the volume of different three-dimensional figures. Today we're going to be talking about prisms. The tricky thing about prisms is that prisms can actually be different shapes. And here's what I mean by that. You know, cylinders pretty much all look the same way, right? They have a circle for the base, and then they have a height, and then they have a circle for the top. And cones pretty much all look the same way, right? They have a circle for the base, and then they kind of come up to a point, right? Like an ice cream cone. And spheres are always spheres. They look like soccer balls or whatever. And the 3D shapes that we've been talking about so far have been relatively easy to work with because they all look similar. All cylinders look similar, all cones look similar, all spheres look similar. Well, today we're going to start talking about prisms. And prisms are tricky because not all prisms look the same. And here's what I mean by that. A prism, what would be a good example of a prism would be like a cereal box. That's actually a rectangular prism. And not all prisms look alike because not all prisms have the same shape for their base. So if you think about your rectangular prism cereal box, and you think about the bottom of that box when you stand it on your kitchen counter, the shape of the bottom of that box, the shape of the base, is a rectangle, right? It's a rectangle on bottom, and it's a rectangle on top. That makes it a rectangular prism. We also have triangular prisms. So we actually have prisms that would be a triangle base on the bottom, and then all the sides come straight up, and you have a triangle top that's considered the other base. So your two bases, the top and the bottom, are triangles. So this is what I mean when I say not all prisms look alike because they don't all have the same shape for the base. Okay, so now that being said, when we go to calculate the volume of prisms, it gets a little tricky because the volume of a prism depends on the shape of the base. So if you're looking at the screen right now where it says volume of prisms, there's a formula here that says V equals, right here, maybe, there we go, big B, capital B, times little h. So you're going to hear me say V equals big B times h. And big B is really this. It's the area of the base. That's big B. And again, finding the area of the base can change depending on the shape of the base, right? If the base is a rectangle, you're going to have to find the area of that rectangular base. However, if the shape of the base is a triangle, you're going to have to find the area of that base, which is a triangle. So this big B, this area of the base, that is kind of a formula in and of itself. And you're going to have to calculate that first. Then, once you know the base area, big B, you multiply that by the height of the overall prism. All right? So the volume of a prism is actually another formula inside of it, and that's an area formula. So again, it sounds really confusing right now, but I think you'll see once we get going. The area of the base changes depending on the shape of the base. So again, let me tell you this. Big B is base area. And if your base is a rectangle, it's going to be length times width. If your base is a triangle, big B is going to be half times the base of that triangle times the height of that triangle. Then once you calculate big B, then you take that measurement times the overall height of the prism, and that will tell you the volume of the prism, how much it will hold. So you have to calculate base area first. So again, it's a formula inside a formula. Holy cow, let's just see what we're talking about. Here's an example. This is a rectangular prism. Okay, so this is kind of like a Kleenex box or a shoe box. And we have the formula there. Volume of a rectangular prism, big B times H. And what they've done here in this slide is they've taken our big B, our base area, and they've broken it down into length times width. Because again, if the base is a rectangle and you're trying to find its area, it's length times width. So I'm looking at this Kleenex box here that's been drawn, and you can see that they attempted to shade in the base of the Kleenex box, right? So this is the base down here. It's this rectangle. And they're showing you that's the length and that's the width of that base rectangle. So if I wanted to find the area of that, I would take that length times that width, and that would be big B. Then I multiply that amount times the height of the prism, of the Kleenex box. And once I take big B times that H, that would tell me the volume of the box. All right, let's try some. Find the volume of each rectangular prism. Be sure to label. All right, talking about labels, it's units, whatever the units are, to the third power, because it's volume. Anytime it's volume, it's units to the third power. Okay, here we go. Ready? Let's look at the shape of the base. The shape of the base is a rectangle. There it is. Oops, I don't want to start with that. I'm going to start with my volume formula. Big B times H, rectangular base. To find the area is length times width. All right? So I'm still finding big B. The length is 6. The width is 3. Big B is 18. Now that I know that, I can plug that into the volume formula. Big B is 18 times H, which is the height of the overall prism, which is 4. And 18 times 4 is 72, and it's centimeters to the third power. 72 cubic centimeters would fit inside that box. All right? Okay, let's do number 2 down here. This is a little bit of a different rectangular prism and a little bit of a different shape to it. Again, here's my base down here, right? It's a rectangle. Big B times H. Big B is base area. There's a rectangle. To find the area of that rectangular base, it's length times width. So calculating big B, the length is 16 times the width, which is 9. And big B is 144. But that's not my final answer. That's just base area. Take that times the height, which is right there, of the prism. And 144 times 4 is 576 cubic centimeters. So a much bigger box, a much bigger prism than number 1. Okay, so those are rectangular prisms because the base shape is a rectangle. I told you earlier the base shape could also be a triangle. Oh, there it is. Here is a prism. It has a rectangular base here, and it has another rectangular base here. That's how I know it's a triangular prism. Now I got myself all confused. It's a triangle base here and a triangle base here, and because it has 2 triangle bases, it is a triangular prism. How about that? Holy cow. Okay, so this one is still volume equals big B times H, but now big B, base area, is different. It's not length times width anymore because now our base is a triangle. And to find the area of a triangle, it's half times base times height of that base triangle. You're going to calculate that first. Then you'll take that times the overall height of the prism. Okay. Let's try some of these. Find the volume of each triangular prism, and remember, area of the base, then times the height. All right, let's do this. big B times h. What's the base? Base is a triangle. So the area of a triangle is half times base times the height of the triangle. So we're looking at this thing right here. Ooh, it's a little blurry and hard to see. But it's going to be half times the base of that triangle is 8 times the height of that triangle right there, which you can't really tell, but that's a 3. Half times 8 times 3 is 12. Now, finish it. Big B is 12 times the height of the overall prism, which is 12. The volume is 144 cubic centimeters. Centimeters to the third power. Base area, that's definitely the hard part here. What shape is your base and how do you find the area of it? You have to remember. Here's another one. We'll do this one in blue. Okay, what's my base? Triangle. Big B, base area, times height. It's a triangle base, so it's half, times the height, times the base of that little triangle, right? We're not talking the overall prism yet. So it's going to be half times, what's the height? It's a 3. What's the base of that triangle? It's a 4. Half times 3 times 4. Big B is 6. Take that, go back to your volume formula. Big B is 6 times the height of the prism, right there is 11. The volume is 66 cubic centimeters. All right, so finding the base area is definitely the sticking point on this lesson. Got to remember how you find the area of a rectangle versus the area of a triangle. Well, you survived, and we're going to be working on this skill in class over the next few days. All right, so remember, volume of a prism, big B times h. I should write prism over here so you don't get confused. And let's talk quickly about big B again. If it is a rectangle, big B is length times width. If it is a triangle base, big B is half times base times height of that triangle. You get that answer first, it goes there, then times the height of the overall prism. So it's a formula within a formula. A lot of calculator work on this. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in class.